BBC One, we can now join the BBC's news teams where you are.
George, thank you. Good evening. Welcome to Look North.
On tonight's programme, what convinces young people in Yorkshire to sign up for a life in Syria? We reveal how so-called Islamic State are recruiting here.
I was really scared. It was the first time it hit me that I was talking to an IS terrorist.
Also tonight, reconnecting a community. Work begins to link the two halves of Tadcaster, divided by the floods. The hands-on football managers taking their tiny teams to the top. Some of the world's best Subbuteo players have been in action this weekend. And three legs, two comedians and a couple of familiar faces stepping out for sport relief.
And with more wind and rain on the way, join me for that week ahead forecast.
Good evening. Our top story tonight. A BBC reporter has been undercover to reveal the methods being used to radicalise young people in Yorkshire. Calling herself Zara, she created an online identity and said she wanted to join the so-called Islamic State in Syria.
She was bombarded with messages and marriage proposals from a German man who wanted to recruit her to the terror group.
This is Dewsbury, home to Talal Asmal, Britain's youngest suicide bomber. This football tournament is to mark the launch of a group started by friends and neighbours. They're throwing everything into supporting other young people in the area they fear may be at risk of radicalisation.
We're a voluntary community project which has been set up in Dewsbury following the incident in April where we had two young boys going off to Iraq. There's 14, 15 very vulnerable children here at the moment. They were the friends of the two lads that went away. So we're working very closely with them. We're giving them a safe space to come and let us know what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they're seeing online.
Their biggest worry is what these young people might be picking up on social media. Researchers claim thousands of accounts and online propaganda come from IS-controlled areas.
Young people use social media all the time, so we shouldn't be that surprised that Islamic State, made up predominantly of young people, will use the skills that they already have.
We decided to find out what was going on in these online conversations. Meet Zara, not her real name. She's an undercover journalist. She created an online ID and started following IS recruiters who ply their trade on social media. She was soon receiving messages, including many from one man, a German jihadi called Mario, who pursued her constantly and offered her advice on how to make the hijrah, the journey to IS. In a video call, he urged her to travel to join him.
You say me, where are you? I go to I talk with the brothers, I give the place, and then I say, in this time they come to you, and they take you. But it's all safety. It's safety more than you think. So don't be scared there's somebody, some person, he want to rape you or like this. Don't like this. Don't think like this.
We showed a transcript of our reporters' conversations to engage Dewsbury.
I'm a father myself, and it's frightening that something like this can happen. And it can happen so quickly.
Inshallah, I'll be there for you 24 hours every day.
It makes me very angry that, somebody could take advantage of somebody in this manner. And with these kind of words, where they're pretending to be quite holy, but really they're doing something so wrong.
After this, Zara cut off all communication with Mario. This was one person he wasn't going to persuade.
Well, a little earlier, I spoke to our undercover reporter to find out more about her online conversations. Zara, what disturbed me about that incredibly powerful bit of film was that you had a sympathy for him. Why on earth did you have a sympathy for this terrorist?
I think initially when I started talking to Mario, he came across as a really polite, really nice man. He was very respectful, and I know I'm a journalist and I need to take a step back from the story, but I'm also a human and I felt sorry for him. I thought, oh, poor boy, maybe he's brainwashed and he's stuck in the wrong place.
So as an experienced journalist who knew exactly what you were trying to achieve, and he had a way of getting into your brain in some shape or form, how would a 15 or 16-year-old cope with that kind of brainwashing, I suppose, is what it is.
You know, I've interviewed people who have been in an abusive relationship. I luckily have never experienced in real life what Mario made me feel. Initially, it started off as silly flirting, but I soon saw a very different side of him.
Oh, look, send me one picture, no problem, inshallah. Even you send me one picture, khalas, I don't ask you anymore. I only want to see you.
He became abusive and aggressive. He would send me voice messages shouting at me, and that really threw me off. I had a severe headache and body ache. I had a chat with the editor and producer and said, I don't understand this guy. One moment he's lovely, he makes me feel so special, and the next minute he's screaming and shouting. And that's when my experienced editor and producer said, that's grooming, that's what he's doing. If he can make me feel like that, no chance for a 15, 16-year-old girl to escape.
If there was one message that he constantly peppered you with, what was it?
He always told me, don't tell your family, don't tell your parents when you're making the journey. Pick up your bag, pick up your passport, fly to Turkey, and then come to me. And when I asked him, why am I not allowed to tell my parents, he said, because they are the devils, they are the shaitan in your life. They'll stop you from making this hijrah, this journey, and then you can't come to me, so don't tell anybody.
Were you ever scared in any of this work?
Yes, Harry, the first time I saw Mario, did the video chats, I looked at him on that screen, the cold stare, I'll never forget that. I was really, really scared. It was the first time it hit me that I was talking to an IS terrorist.
And there's a lot more on that exclusive investigation on Inside Out at 7:30 tonight on BBC One.
The coroner at the new Hillsborough inquest has told the jury they must decide if the 96 fans who died were unlawfully killed. They'll also have to decide whether the conduct of the South Yorkshire Police match commander David Duckenfield amounted to gross negligence manslaughter.
The coroner in Warrington has started summing up after nearly 2 years of evidence. 96 people died in a crush at an FA Cup semi-final in Sheffield in 1989. I asked our reporter Andy Gill what the coroner had said about David Duckenfield.
Well, the jury have been given a questionnaire with 14 questions on. Question 6 is determination of the unlawful killing issue. And the coroner's told the jury that to be sure of that, they have to look at the conduct of former Chief Superintendent David Duckenfield of South Yorkshire Police, who was the match commander on the day. The key question the jury have got to ask themselves is, was David Duckenfield responsible for manslaughter by gross negligence? Earlier on in the inquest, the jury heard that he ordered an exit gate to be opened to relieve crushing outside the Leppings Lane terraces, but that led to an inrush of fans into the central pens, which were already full. And the coroner told the jury there are 4 areas they've got to examine. Did David Duckenfield owe those who died a duty of care? Did he breach that duty of care? If he breached it, was that a significant contribution to the disaster? And if there was a breach, was that serious enough to amount to gross negligence? And the jury were also told that all parties, including Mr. Duckenfield's representatives, agree that the duty of care he did owe the people who died was that of a reasonably careful and competent match commander, as it would have been in 1989. Importantly, though, because this is an inquest, the jury have been told that they cannot name anyone in any of their findings who they may feel is responsible for any offence.
Andy, the jury also have to consider other issues surrounding South Yorkshire Police and South Yorkshire Ambulance Service.
And that's right, the jury were told that they'd have to look at how South Yorkshire Police planned for the match, also how South Yorkshire Police went about their job on the day at the turnstiles and the terraces. Did officers make any mistakes or omissions which contributed to the disaster? The jury were also told to look at whether there were defects in the Hillsborough Stadium itself and at the behaviour of the fans. Did they do anything that contributed to a dangerous situation? They've also got to look at how South Yorkshire Police and South Yorkshire Ambulance Service responded to the disaster once it was underway. Could those two forces have done anything different? Could they have done anything quicker that would have perhaps led to a different outcome? And the coroner's going to spend 3 weeks summing up the evidence to the jury. We expect the jury to be sent out to consider their determinations, their verdicts, on or around February the 22nd.
Andy, thank you very much.
A 24-year-old man has admitted causing the deaths by dangerous driving of 3 people who were killed on Boxing Day in Doncaster. 2 married couples were walking in the Askern area when they were hit by a car being driven by Ricky Hepworth. Andrew and Faye Tomlinson died along with Mandy Deere. Mrs Deere's husband John was left critically ill in hospital. Hepworth has been remanded in custody and will be sentenced in April.
A full inquest is to be held into the death of murdered teacher Anne Maguire. Mrs Maguire was stabbed to death in the classroom by one of her pupils in 2014. Her family have today welcomed the coroner's ruling to hold an inquest. They've been campaigning for a full statutory and independent review into how the murder happened at Corpus Christi Catholic College in Leeds. Despite the successful prosecution and conviction of Will Cornick, who's now serving a life sentence for her murder, the Maguire family believe the circumstances of Anne's death have not been fully investigated.
Contractors have vowed to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week to build an emergency footbridge in Tadcaster. The town has been split in 2 since its only road bridge collapsed in the floods.
Today, parts of the footbridge arrived on site and it's hoped it'll be complete in just 2 weeks' time. Kathy Killick has the latest.
1 month on from the loss of its bridge, they're swinging into action in Tadcaster. These are parts of an emergency footbridge, ready to be assembled to link the town once more. After Sam Smith's brewery refused to allow its land to be used, the town's football club came to the rescue, agreeing the bridge could be sited here, downstream from the damaged road bridge. But the span is quite a stretch.
In effect, we're building 2 foundations, one on either bank of the river. They will then build what's in effect a very large Meccano set, where they'll build a section of the bridge and start to push it across the river. So it'll cantilever over the river until it reaches the other foundation.
The bridge will take about 2 weeks to complete, and for the volunteers helping Tadcaster and its residents recover from the floods, it can't come soon enough.
It's absolutely amazing. It's come along so quickly, and it's a lift up for the town to actually see the work commencing now. It is literally a lifeline to businesses on both sides. There's been no traffic allowed anywhere around, and the drive round is just crippling a lot of people, and the older people can't get across. So this is going to make it a lot easier for them as well. People with pushchairs and wheelchairs, the access is going to be immediately obvious.
While the footbridge is very welcome, it's the road bridge which is essential for the businesses here in Tadcaster. But being an 18th century stone piece of architecture, repair won't be quick or easy. Latest estimates say it'll take about a year to put right.
The extent of the flooding was a devastating shock to the town, but as the water's gone down, instead of normality returning as elsewhere, here the bridge problems have left a lasting headache. Despite the footbridge, it'll test this small town's resilience to the limit. Kathy Killick, BBC Look North, Tadcaster.
Business Minister Anne Soubry has been in Collardale today to meet retailers who've been affected by floods.
She went to the Shoulder of Mutton pub in Mythenroyd, which is still being cleaned up following the floods after Christmas. Ms Soubry said the government's giving £6 million, as well as working with local authorities to get businesses back up and running.
This is a beautiful part of the country. It's a fabulous place to do business and not just visit. It's got so much going for it, so I think it's imperative everybody is positive and puts out that positive message. You guys are open for business, and our job is to work with your local council to make sure you are open for business.
Before 7 o'clock. The Reds are on a roll. Barnsley win 4 on the bounce. We've got a roundup of this weekend's football action and hopefully we'll both be awake for it.
Well, this is our first training session. John is in a few minutes' time.
It's not going too bad. You've only fallen 3 times, Harry, but we've come to join Joe Branch. She's currently in South Yorkshire doing the coast-to-coast run. Join us later.
OK, well...
Where am I?
We're on the sofa. Thankfully, it's time for the sport. Shall we hand over to Tanya?
I think so, very quickly.
I've seen somebody asleep with their eyes open quite like that with people yelling down their eyes. Let's start with boxing. Sheffield's Kell Brook says he wants a big blockbuster fight this summer, whether it's with Amir Khan or a fellow world champion. There was a news conference today to promote his fight against the mandatory challenger to his IBF welterweight title, Kevin Bizier. That will be at the Arena in March, but But all anyone wanted to talk about was who Brooke will fight after that. Amir Khan is said to have asked for 80% of the purse to fight Brooke, his team have offered him 60%.
I don't know if he realises that I'm the champion, and you know I'm giving him a chance to fight for the world title. You know, it's so deluded him and his team. You know, I'm only pushing for that fight because I'm getting asked about it all the time, and it is. I just want to show